The lights, the crowd, the moment. When the Warriors take the floor, greatness follows. At Cache Creek Casino Resort, every moment shines. Feel the rush as the reels spin. Breathe in our serene spa. Savor each bite in our award-winning steakhouse. And recharge in the comfort of our luxurious hotel. Cache Creek Casino Resort, proud partner of your Golden State Warriors. Please play responsibly.
This next one's for all you CarMax shoppers who just want to buy a car your way.
Wanna check some cars out in person? Wanna look some more from your house? Okay.
Want to pretend you know about engines?
Nah, I'll just chat with CarMax online instead.
Wanna get pre-qualified from your couch? Woo! Wanna get that car?
Hey, SAP!
You wanna do it your way.
Want to drive? CarMax.
1 in 8 women have thyroid issues.
Am I the one? I am kind of tired. I should see a doctor. Is it genetic? Does my health plan even cover tests like that? In-network? Out-of-network? Why is this always a whole big thing? Wait. I have Kaiser Permanente. So my coverage includes regular preventive care. Guess it doesn't have to be a whole big thing.
Kaiser Permanente. Healthcare that just works.
What's up, Dub Nation? Do you want to get cash back on Warriors gear? All you have to do is sign up at Rakuten.com/Warriors, where you can earn 10% cash back in store and online at Warriors Shop. Once you're a member, shop your favorite stores like Fanatics and Ticketmaster and watch the cash back add up in your account. Rakuten is the most rewarding way for you to shop and maximize your savings. Join Rakuten for free today at Rakuten.com/Warriors or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
Thanks for showing up, Dub Nation. Nothing beats catching your Warriors live, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back. As the official ticket marketplace of the Warriors and the NBA, even if you're headed to the game last minute, Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can experience all the sights, sounds, and styles in person. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Warriors tickets today at Ticketmaster. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. See you courtside again soon, Dub Nation.
All members of Dub Nation know 2 essential truths. 1, the Warriors have the best point guard in the history of the game. And 2, the very best planes in the sky are United. New planes are joining the United fleet every week, decked out with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, and power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to fit everyone's carry-on, or giant foam fingers. Download the United app and book your next trip today. United Airlines, proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors.
The Curry, pump fake, flyby, 3-ball, with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-WHO.
Don't you wish you were here?
This Odyssey Sports broadcast has been brought to you by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ-FM and HD1 San Francisco on Odyssey Sports Station and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios.
And the Warriors will try to salvage a split in this back-to-back road trip. Kind of an interesting road trip, flying 3.5 hours to play 2 games and then going back home. We'll talk about that and scores from around the A on the post-game show upcoming. Pelicans win the win, 113-109. That's your final score.
Yeah, rough one for the Warriors down in New Orleans. As you just heard the voice of the Dubs, Tim Roy, say the final score 113-109. Dubs fall to the Pelicans. The Pelicans win just their 17th game of the season, and they do it over the Warriors tonight down in the Big Easy. Again, final score 113-109. Welcome in. This is Warriors Wrap Up. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game for the next at least hour. We're going to break down every angle of this basketball game. If you guys want to join the conversation, give me a call, shoot me a text. The number is the same for both, 888-957-9570. That's the number to call and to text. I see the 650, the 707 already chiming in on the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. And I also see the YouTube chat, which is moving as it always does here for Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. Shout out to A-Change. Shout out to Hong. Shout out to D. Lou. Shout out to everyone chiming in on YouTube as well. Appreciate the comments. Keep them coming as we pick up the pieces of this Warrior loss to the Pelicans. Again, the final score, 113-109. This game really was a tale of two halves. The first half was incredibly ugly basketball. The Pelicans led by 12 after the first quarter. The Warriors scored just 19 points in the first quarter. They scored just 39 points in the first half, and frankly, they were lucky to be down at halftime just by 7. If the Pelicans had any kind of shooting half in the first half, they would have been up by at least 15, maybe even 20. Credit the Warriors defensively for keeping them in it, and some of it was New Orleans just not being a very good team and maybe missing some makeable shots, but a lot of it was the Warriors' defense. They had a really good half defensively in that first half, and it's the only reason the first half wasn't even uglier than it was. But man, the Warriors' offense in that first half. They scored just 39 points in the first half. You remember what they did in the first half on Sunday versus the Nuggets, right? On the first half on Sunday, they scored 76 points in the first half. They scored just 39 points in the first half of this game here tonight. In the first half, those 39 points, as I mentioned. And by the way, on Sunday, 76 in the first half, 39 in the first quarter alone. So they scored 39 points in half the time it took the Warriors to score 39 points tonight, which is just how much of a difference it was for the Warriors offensively on Sunday versus the Nuggets, and then tonight versus the Pelicans. But the Warriors in the first half tonight, 39 points, 15 for 49 from the field. That's a little more than 30%. 6 of 26 from downtown. That's about 23%. And just 10 assists in the first half. They committed 13 turnovers. Yet again, somehow, and that's only in the first half, those 13 turnovers. Same with all those other stats. Yet somehow, they only trailed by 7 points at halftime. It's frankly a miracle it was that close of a game. And then they picked things up in the third quarter. They went on a run in the third quarter. Their offense was executing much better. It was a lot smoother in that third quarter. It wasn't necessarily they were getting shots to fall. They were just smartly going into the paint. Which was what I felt was the answer and the solution the entire game. But for some reason, the Warriors spent the entire first half just shooting 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, despite the fact that they were not falling. But the second half, it got going. They began the third on a 24-13 run. They took a 4-point lead with about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Then New Orleans closed that quarter on a run to take a lead going into the fourth quarter. They ultimately led by as many as 10 in the fourth quarter. Warriors fought nearly all the way back, got back within 3, led by DeAnthony Melton, who had a big fourth quarter, led by Moses Moody, who was efficient today as well. Moses scored 24 points, was 7 of 13 from the field. Melton led the way with 28 points. I thought Draymond had himself a pretty good game with 11 points, 7 boards, 6 assists. Guy Santos, 6 really rough turnovers, but he was better offensively in the second half. He finishes with 15 points, also had 12 boards. He was all over the place, at times a little chaotic with those turnovers, but he was much better in the second half. But then down the stretch in that fourth quarter, it was kind of the opposite of the first half. The Warriors could not get enough stops down the stretch. I mean, New Orleans scored 36 points in the fourth quarter. The Warriors scored 37. They won the fourth quarter. They won the third quarter as well. They scored 70 points in the second half. The Warriors did 70-67 though they scored 70, but they also gave up 67 to this Pelicans team in the second half, and that's kind of the story of this second half, the opposite of the first half. The Warriors actually started scoring, but they could not stop New Orleans. New Orleans was led by Zion, who scored 26 points, and then it was a balanced attack from there. Saddiq Bey had 18, hit a really big three down the stretch in the fourth quarter, had a really big and one as well. DeJounte Murray in his first game in over an entire year as he recovers from the Achilles tendon rupture early last season. He had 13 points, 12 points for Jordan Poole, former Warrior, of course, off the bench. Double-figure scoring from Karlo Matkovic, the big man down low off the bench as well. But a team effort for New Orleans besides Zion, and just too little too late for the Warriors on offense. They could not get anything going in the first half. But I think what we got to talk about, and there's plenty to dive into, I think what we got to talk about is the Warriors' plan of attack offensively. And if you were watching on the NBC Sports Bay Area broadcast with Fitz and Buki, you heard them talk about this as well. One of the weaknesses of New Orleans, of which there are many, they are 17-42, and that includes today's win. I will say they've been playing a whole lot better of late. New Orleans has. So again, 17-42. However, they are 4-2 in their last 6. They're 9-11 in their last 20. So this is a team that I think is better than most people give them credit for, at least just based on their record. I know 9-11 over the course of 20 games isn't like a playoff team, but it's a whole lot better than what a lot of the other teams around them are pacing at. For example, the Kings, I think, just won today for the first time in like a month, and they're the only team in the West with a worse record than the Pelicans. I'm not here telling you the Pelicans are a world beater. I'm just telling you they've been playing a lot better basketball of late. Now, the bar was incredibly, incredibly low. But again, last 20 games, they're nearly 500, and that's a big chunk of the season. That's nearly an entire quarter of the season. So this is not like a league worst team, in my humble opinion. Now, are they a good team? No. Is this a team the Warriors should win, should beat? Yeah, probably. Even if you're down Steph and Jimmy and Porzingis and today, no Al Horford, you probably still should win this game, and they had an opportunity to. But I don't circle this game as like the most embarrassing loss of the Warriors season. They've had plenty of other games that I think qualify as that much more than this one does. The 949 just chimed in on the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. Inexcusable Dubs loss. This is a game they should win over a horrendous Pelicans team. Again, 949, I don't think the Pelicans are as horrendous as you think. Are they good? No, of course not. They are playing a whole lot better of late. They got DeJounte Murray back. Zion has actually been healthy this season, which is frankly a miracle for them. And they got a couple of nice pieces as well. Also, they were down Trey Murphy, so they were not at full strength either. Not a great team. A game the Warriors should probably win? Yes, probably. But this is far from, I think, the Warriors' worst loss of the season, just considering what the Warriors' injury report was as well. This also speaks to, I think, the correct expectations we should have for this Warriors team. But again, I'm getting off track. We can argue if this is the most embarrassing loss, second most embarrassing loss, whatever. We can have that argument if you guys want, and you can weigh in 888-957-9570. I think the conversation we should be having is this Pelicans team, despite how I just waxed poetic about how good they are, right? 9-11 in their last 20 games. They do have major weaknesses. And I think their biggest weakness is their inability to defend the paint. And when that's the reality for a team you are facing, that's what you should exploit. And let me just give you some numbers here. The Pelicans, they allow 53 points per game in the paint this season. That is the sixth most in the NBA. And if you look at some of the more advanced numbers, some of those numbers suggest the Pelicans are the worst defense in the paint in the entire league. But I'm just going to go on the simple points in the paint per game allowed. And the Pelicans, sixth worst. They allow the sixth most points per game in the paint in the entire NBA this season. Meanwhile, the Pelicans against the three-point shot. Opponent shoot just a little over 35% from deep on the season against New Orleans. That is the 10th best mark in the NBA. This is a team that now has 17 wins, right? And they have the 10th best three-point defense in the league, okay? So numbers that I have access to are clearly numbers the Warriors have access to. And it tells you a pretty plain, simple, straightforward picture. New Orleans can't stop you in the paint, or they can't stop anybody in the paint, but they actually are pretty decent against the three. And they've got some long, lanky defenders. I would imagine that's probably why. I haven't watched a ton of Pelicans basketball other than the 3 times the Warriors have played them. Warriors now 2-1 versus them so far this season. But they do have some length that I would imagine could hurt opposing three-point shooters with their ability to close out and contest those shots. But the numbers, and we're, frankly, approaching the final quarter of the season, it's a pretty big sample size, and the numbers show very plainly New Orleans, a good three-point defense and a bad in-the-paint defense. So the strategy should be pretty clear from the jump. Attack the paint against this team because they can't stop anybody down there. And what did the Warriors do? Well, first of all, they turned the ball over, which you never want to do, and that's kind of been a recurring theme for the Warriors this season. Tonight, they finished with 21 turnovers, which is far too many. They committed 13 in the first half, so they were a bit better in the second half, but still 8 turnovers and a half is more than you're asking for, but it was a pretty marked improvement on the first half. That's just how bad the first half was. But with New Orleans, you have to attack the paint, and what did the Warriors do? In the first quarter, they put up 10 threes. They made 3 of them. That's an okay number, 3 of 10 from downtown. However, they closed the first quarter by scoring 8 consecutive points in the paint. The Warriors' last 8 points in the first quarter all came in the paint, and it all was not super rapid succession, but considering how they were scoring before that in the first quarter, it felt like a scoring run. 8 straight points scored all in the paint by the Warriors to close that first quarter. And then how do they attack on offense in the second quarter? They just put up 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. They go 3 for 16 from downtown in the second quarter. That means at halftime, they're 6 for 26 from downtown in the first half. And 20 misses in the first half, I would venture to guess something like 12 of those 20, maybe 13 of those 20 misses were pretty wide open misses. And this is where we get kind of into the nitty-gritty of process versus results. Do you think the Warriors' offense is working the way it should because they're getting good looks? They're just not falling? Or are the looks being created for players that are not reliable three-point shooters? And the last 2 Warriors games are the perfect conversation, right? Because the Warriors versus the Nuggets, which was essentially the same team that played today, the only difference was no Al Horford, and I know he was really good versus Denver, but it's not as if he's like a singular figure that changes the geometry of the floor a crazy amount. Of course, he helps space things out. But that was really the only difference in terms of the injury report, who was available and who wasn't. The other difference was Draymond was available in this game. Now, that is a trade-off. Draymond playing the 5 versus Al Horford playing the 5. There's a lot more ground for defenses to cover out to the three-point line when it is Al. So that certainly has an impact. And we're going to talk about Draymond. I thought Draymond in the first half was having a really negative impact on the Warriors offensively. But I don't think it had a ton to do with Draymond specifically. It was because of the larger plan of attack offensively. Once the Warriors said, you know what, we're going to attack the paint, Draymond's value skyrocketed because that's what he's good at. Give him the ball, right elbow, run your screen off ball, run your split action, and let Draymond make a pass to a backdoor cutter. And that happened like 7 times in the second half. And Draymond's passes were on point. But in the first half, when the Warriors were just so eager to shoot 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, they weren't utilizing Draymond's strengths. We can have that conversation about Draymond in a bit. I want to dive into it. But I think the larger conversation is about the way Steve Kerr and this coaching staff schemed it up in the first half. Because, again, final 8 points of the first quarter were all in the paint by the Warriors, and then they came out in the second quarter. I'm thinking, okay, they finally figured out the way to attack this Pelicans team is to get in the paint on them. Stop shooting threes. And all they did was put up 16 threes in the second quarter alone, and they made just 3 of them. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Now, maybe they're influenced by what happened on Sunday versus Dallas, right? Sunday versus Dallas, they cannot miss. They made 9 threes in the first quarter alone on Sunday versus Dallas. They made what was it, 18, I believe, 18 in the first half alone. No, 15 in the first half alone versus, I might have said Dallas, versus Denver on Sunday. They made just 11 in this game here today. But the point is you're coming off of that high of that shooting performance. And then you come into this game thinking, okay, we're going to keep shooting the basketball well, right? Wrong. And this is where the conversation comes. All right, like is it still in the Warriors' best interest to shoot how many threes they put up today? 45 threes, around there, 40 or 50 threes every single night, and you just hope and pray you have a good shooting night? I mean, the Warriors without Stephen Curry and presently constructed, down Steph tonight, down Porzingis, down Al Horford, that's got to be one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. And the Warriors still determined, at least for half of this basketball game, our best chance is to just take a bunch of threes and hope they go in. And that just does not seem to be the right strategy. You know what changed in the second half? The Warriors didn't magically start making threes in the second half, but they scored 70 points in the second half. You know how? You know how they scored 70 points in the second half? Because they went to the paint. Let me ask you guys, the Warriors scored tonight 58 points in the paint. 58 points in the paint. How many, you don't have to text in or join the YouTube chat and let me know. Just if you're driving around right now or listening on the Odyssey app, just come to a number in your head. Out of the 58 points in the paint tonight, how many do you think the Warriors scored in the second half? How many of those 58 points in the paint came in the second half? Just come to a number in your head, because I think this is going to blow you away. Warriors score 58 points in the paint in this entire game. They scored just 18 points in the paint in the first half and 40 in the second half. 40 of the Warriors' 58 points in the paint came in the second half. 40 of their 70 points in the second half were in the paint. And a very small amount of the rest of those 30 were from the three-point line. They finally figured out the best way to attack New Orleans is to attack the paint. And it happened over and over and over again. If you look at the Warriors shot chart, first half to second half, it's just everything is in the paint, which is how it should be against this New Orleans team. And for the life of me, I just cannot understand why it took them a half of basketball to figure it out. Like, Denver was an amazing game. But, like, we can be honest, that was somewhat of a fluky shooting performance, right? Like, we're not going to look at that Denver game and say that is who the Warriors are as an offense without Steph Curry, without Jimmy Butler, without Kristaps Porzingis. You cannot count on that sort of shooting night to happen again. The Warriors tonight from downtown were 11 for 45. Moody was a very good 4 for 10. Melton was 3 for 10. He kind of was hoisting in the fourth quarter because he had to. I thought Melton was really good in this game. He kind of became a volume scorer, 8 for 21, but no one else was helping him out much in the fourth quarter, so he kind of had to put a lot of shots up. I don't blame him for that. But those two combined were 7 for 20, Moody and Melton. The rest of the Warriors were 4 for 25 from downtown. The rest of the Warriors, 4 for 25 from downtown. And that is also not, I think, reality of who the Warriors are. You would expect some other players to shoot a little better, like Podziemski was 1 for 6. Quentin Post, whose three-point shot has just evaporated, was 0 for 4. But you look at some of the other players, right? GP2 goes 0 for 4 from downtown after he was amazing shooting the basketball on Sunday versus Dallas. Does GP2's 0 for 4 surprise you an incredible amount? Does Draymond going 1 for 3 surprise you? Does Guy Santos going 1 for 4 surprise you? Like, a lot of these numbers are not all that surprising. I don't think the Warriors are 11 for 45 bad, at least this iteration of the Warriors, without Steph, without Al, without Porzingis shooting the basketball. But, of course, they're not as good as they were on Sunday versus Denver either. Their real ability from downtown is somewhere in between. But when you are going against a team like New Orleans that can't stop anybody in the paint and actually is pretty decent from downtown defensively. It feels like this game was just begging you to attack the paint more often. It made Draymond Green more valuable in the second half when they attacked the paint. It made Brendan Pajemski more valuable in the second half when you were able to attack the paint and he was able to sneak in for nice cuts, for offensive rebounds off of misses, those sorts of things. It also opens up three-point shots. It really does for some of your good shooters, because what New Orleans was doing defensively was not even guarding certain players like Draymond Green or GP2 from downtown, but really sticking on Moses Moody and DeAnthony Melton. And when others aren't making threes, you're not scoring inside, those defenders don't feel threatened and they can stick on Melton. They can stick on Moody. But what happens when you score 40 points in the paint in the second half? The defense has to collapse, and they have to try to take that away at a certain point. And that leaves Moses Moody open for a wide-open corner three that he made in the fourth quarter, right? He was not getting that kind of look too often in the first half. So I think the Warriors kind of weaken, like, it kind of goes opposite the way that you might logically think. If you just attack the paint versus a bad paint defense, you're probably going to help out your three-point shooting numbers. Because at a certain point, the Pelicans are going to have to overhelp to end the paint, and it's going to leave open maybe just your one or two good three-point shooters you have on the floor. And the Warriors just could not get enough to go in the first half, and then they could not get stops down the stretch, and they lose this one. Final score 113-109. A rough Warriors loss. The Warriors and this franchise are not one for moral victories. I do think the Warriors deserve credit for how hard they play. I don't know how many Warrior fans are going to want to hear that. They just lost to the freaking Pelicans. I get it. The Warriors are now 30-28. But they got back in this game in the third quarter after they could not score in the first half. Again, 39 points in the first half. They scored 76 points in the first half last time they played. They scored 39 in the first half today. They got back into this game not because they just caught fire from downtown, which kind of feels like at times it could be like a cheap way to score points. If you just catch fire, like everything you put up is going in, like, okay, is your process really all that good? Are you hustling? Are you creating good looks? Or did you just catch fire, right? The Warriors didn't do that, but they scored 70 points in the fourth quarter, in the second half. How did they do that in the second half? It was because, again, of a better plan of attack to get into the paint, but it was also they just out-hustled everybody on the floor from big stretches, specifically in that third quarter. But I think for the majority of the second half entirely, they were on the offensive glass. They were diving for loose balls. They were poking balls away from the Pelicans on the Pelicans' offensive side of the floor. The Warriors deserve some credit, I think, for how hard they played. But again, we're not in the moral victory business, and the Warriors lost this game 113-109. So what is that really worth? Not all that much, but I do think they deserve a little bit of credit for how hard they played down the stretch. Okay, we got to take a break. I see you on hold. If you're there, hang out. We'll get to you when we come back. Plus, we'll hear from Steve Kerr and more as we continue picking apart the pieces of this Warriors loss. 113-109. Warriors fall to the Pelicans. The Dubs now 30-28. The Pelicans get just their 17th win of the season. The Pelicans 17-42. Yikes. What we will do also before we get out of here tonight is look around the association. There's one particular game that usually isn't on the Warriors' radar because it's a couple of Eastern Conference teams. The Atlanta Hawks hosted the Washington Wizards today. And no, it's not important because Trae Young made his return to Atlanta. It's important because Jonathan Kuminga debuted for the Atlanta Hawks. If you have not heard what Kuminga did tonight, you're going to want to hear it. Or if you are a Warrior fan upset at how the Kuminga tenure went, maybe you don't want to hear it. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you whether you want to hear it or not. That's coming up as well here on Warriors Wrap Up. Warriors fall tonight 113-109. Pelicans knock off the Dubs in the Big Easy. Time for a break. Mark Randy with you. Warriors Wrap Up continues next on 95.7 The Game.
What's your financial future look like? At Pettinelli Financial Partners, we help you shape it. Whether you're planning for retirement, buying a home, or saving for something special, our professionals are here to provide clear guidance and smart strategies. Visit PettinelliFP.com today and take the first step toward a more secure financial future. The financial consultants at Pettinelli Financial Partners are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Stratos Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisor. Stratos and Pettinelli are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Never have I ever called my sister from the finish line of my first marathon.
Hello?
You won't believe where I am.
Are you running?
Mile 26. I'm gonna make it.
Switch to T-Mobile's 55 Plus plan and get iPhone 16e with its advanced camera system on us. Plus, 2 lines for just $30 a line.
Guys, I can't believe it.
I knew you could do it, babe.
That was amazing.
Mom, how do you feel?
I feel great. I can't feel my feet. Let's take a picture. And then you may carry me to the car.
Share every stride, every mile, every memory on America's best network. Switch to T-Mobile's 55 Plus plan and get iPhone 16e on us and 2 lines for just $30 a line.
With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 eligible port-ins on Essentials 55 Plus for well-qualified customers with AutoPay plus taxes, fees, and $35 device connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us. Finance agreement 128 gigabytes, $599.99 required. Best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Google of Speed Test Intelligence data 1H 2025. Visit T-Mobile.com.
Hey, it's Willard. Legends are built over time. Anyone can have a great game, a lucky season. At Habas Law, generations matter. For Tarek Habas and Nicholas Habas, integrity was learned at the dinner table. And a hard truth, clients are often victimized twice, first by accidents, then by greedy insurance companies. 40 years strong, Omar Tarek, and now Nicholas Habas, generations fighting to make it right. Visit HabasLaw.com.
Omar Habas is a California licensed attorney. Offices in Northern California, including San Jose. Past results do not guarantee future outcomes.
All right, I need avocados, bananas, salad, steak.
Wow, does your grocery list have multiple pages?
No, but I skipped lunch, so now it's like my stomach is doing the grocery shopping. And besides, I'm earning cash back with Upside.
Upside? What's that?
Hold up, you haven't heard of it? Upside is a free app that gets you cash back when you shop at gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants. And they added Lucky and Food Max stores, so we're pretty much covered wherever we go.
All those stores?
Yep, so not only are we getting a great deal on groceries, now we can earn cash back as well.
Okay, downloading Upside. Now let me copy your grocery list.
Great news! Lucky and Food Max are now on Upside. Download the Upside app and use the promo code SAVE9 to earn a 10% cashback bonus on your first grocery purchase. That's promo code SAVE9 for a 10% cashback bonus. Use promo code SAVE9.
Offers vary by user and location at participating merchants. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and R&S Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Patrick from Alameda. Elian was great, good communication and prompt. Quickly fixed my door spring and then explained some other aspects of the garage door and what to look for in the future. Thank you, R&S.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with R&S Doors and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when a door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-284-1238. 800-284-1238. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-284-1238.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We asked parents to share their journey of adopting teens.
They changed who I am because I can't see life without them in it.
Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Cross court to Santos, up top to Melton. Melton in traffic, stumbles and falls, gets it to Santos. He shoots the three, no good. Ball tipped, deflected on the deck. Post will rip it away. To Moody, to Melton. Topside triple, up and good. Gets the ball to Moody. Out toward midcourt, guarded by McGowan. Moody draws a double team, feeds Santos, bounce past Draymond, rotates out to Melton. He'll drive, Melton goes up and jammed it with a right hand, right over the top. D'Anthony Melton with a nasty jam at the rim. Little elevation sensation there.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
I did not know Melton had those ups in him still. After all the knee injuries that he's been through, just injuries in general, that dunk in that second half that he had all over Matt Kovic, oh, man, D'Anthony Melton. And then he let him know after. That's one of my favorite things in the NBA is when you poster somebody, that's not embarrassment enough for the defender. You then have to scream in his face. And Melton was talking to him the entire trip down the floor to get back in position defensively. What a dunk that was for Melton. He was awesome in this game, finished with 28 points, made 3 threes, took 10 attempts. I think he was 3 for his first 4 from downtown. Might have missed like his last 6, something like that. He was really good shooting the ball from deep in the first half, oddly enough, when the Warriors were terrible, and then it kind of switched in the second half, but he still finished with 28, got to the line at will in the fourth quarter, 9 of 11 from the free throw line. Besides Melton, the only really consistent scorer for the Warriors was Moses Moody with 24. And you look at Moses now, in the month of February, Moses, and really his solid play dates back even further than that, but let's just look at February, averaging over 15 points per game, 4 rebounds, a couple of assists. Most of what he does in terms of his impact is going to be felt in that points per game category. He hasn't been great defensively, and if you've noticed of late, specifically with Steph out, which has put Melton in the starting lineup, Melton is taking the opposing team's best offensive guard. Like tonight, he was guarding DeJounte Murray, and on Sunday versus the Nuggets, it was Melton who was matched up with Jamal Murray for the most part. Both the Murrays, DeJounte and then Jamal, the last couple of games, it has been Melton guarding him, not Moody. Moody has been kind of getting blown by at times defensively, but his offense is becoming pretty consistent. In the month of February, which is 8 games now for Moses, averaging 15.5 points per game. He's shooting 48.5% from the field and 39% from downtown over the course of a month. If he just does that for the rest of the season, that is awesome. That is amazing. And the Warriors have a bargain on their hands in terms of what Moses is making. 15.5 points per game at 49% from the field and nearly 40% from deep. Yeah, you will absolutely take that. So kudos to Melton, kudos to Moody. Those were the Warriors' 2 best offensive players in this game. We're going to talk about Draymond. We can talk about Pods as well. Pods again today, 15 rebounds. Consecutive games with 15 rebounds. He never had 15 boards in a game in his NBA career, and now he has 15 boards in consecutive games. Crazy stuff from Podziemski. 16 points for Pods, 15 rebounds. 7 of 18 from the field, just 1 of 6 from downtown. Shot wasn't falling like it was in the fourth quarter against Denver, but he impacted the game in other ways. I thought Draymond, after a rough first half, had a pretty productive second half. He finishes with 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. There were a handful of pretty positive performances in this game, but you just never kind of got multiple guys going at the same time, and the Warriors ultimately lose this game. Final score, 113-109. We're going to hear from Steve Kerr. We're going to talk about Draymond specifically because I think there's Obviously, a large conversation going on in Dub Nation among Warrior fans about Draymond. I think it is not quite as black and white as a lot of Warrior fans make it out to be. We'll talk about that. I think tonight is a perfect example of that. I will explain why I feel that way in a bit. Plus, again, we'll hear from Steve Kerr. We also have to talk about Jonathan Kuminga because he is the story around the NBA tonight, much to the chagrin, I think, of the Warriors. We will get to that, but first, out to the phones we go, and you can join the conversation at 888-957-9570. Again, that's 888-957-9570. Chardol is in Fremont and is on the phone here. What's up, Chardol? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Grandy. What do you got?
Hey, Mark Grandy, it's great. It's great calling to your show. I'm a big fan of 95.7 The Game. I listen to it after every Warriors game coming as the New Orleans Pelicans dismantled the Golden State Warriors by a final score of 132-109. I mean, this was like a frustrating game. I mean, we had to win this game today, and then we put all our blood, sweat, and tears in this matchup, and we still weren't able to do anything. So that's what this team needs to work on. And, you know, I know they're resilient. I know they can bounce back. That's what I like about this team. But Steph Curry was out. Al Horford was out. So, you know, when you have players that are injured and they're not playing, that really hurts and impacts your team in a big way. But it was great calling into Warriors Wrap-Up, and I'll definitely call in next time, man. I really love how interactive the show is. You get a lot of callers on here. It's great joining you, and I'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, Chardol. Appreciate the call. I mean, that was an aggressive word you used there. Dismantling of the Warriors. I don't know if they got dismantled. They lost 113-109. Vegas projected this to be a really close basketball game. Last I checked before tip, it was a 1.5-point spread. Warriors were favored, but it was close. I don't know if I would call a 4-point Pelicans win a dismantling, but it is the 17-42 Pelicans. So I get it. This is a game the Warriors needed to win. They had to win this game. If they had any hope of potentially climbing out of the play, and this is a game you have to win, and frankly, probably if they have real hope about wanting to be the 7 as opposed to the 8, this is a game that you have to win. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you like it's no big deal that they lost this basketball game, but it's not as if I think it would have been fair to expect a dominating Warriors win. Just look at who the Warriors put out there. This is a Warrior roster right now. When you're down Steph and you're down Al Horford and you're down Jimmy and you're down Porzingis, this is a Warrior roster that isn't incredibly talented, and you're not going to be able to dominate many teams. You beat the Nuggets on Sunday. Yeah, you absolutely did. You beat them. You earned that game. But again, a lot of that was because you just caught fire from downtown. Now, I'm not taking anything away. They played great. The process offensively was great. They made open shots. Tonight, they missed the open shots in the first half specifically, and you lose this game as a result. Again, the final score, 113-109. All right, if you want to maybe take Chardol's side or agree, whatever, was it a dismantling? Give us a call, 888-957-9570 to join the conversation. Let's hear from Steve Kerr, who addressed the media postgame in New Orleans after his team's 113-109 loss. Here is Coach Kerr on tonight's defeat.
Difference down the stretch tonight?
Well, I don't know that down the stretch is what got us. It was just the full, 48 minutes. We had 21 turnovers. We did not execute very well offensively. Spacing was bad. We transition. We had probably 3 potential layups in the first half, and we didn't run. We didn't cut to the rim. We didn't get to the corners. So we just looked a little disjointed. I thought their pressure early, took us out of some stuff. But the game was right there for us. We just couldn't execute well enough. And we, with the injuries we have to play well to win. We have to play well, and I don't think we played well tonight.
11 of 45 from 3. I know you mentioned just the rhythm wasn't necessarily there. Did you like the looks that you guys got?
Not really. No, it just never felt like there was a flow to the game. Even sometimes when you can get an open 3 and yes, it's a good shot, but if there's no rhythm and flow to the game, then you're not going to shoot it as well.
What could the team have done to find a rhythm or to?
Well, we showed pockets of it in the second half. Our off-ball stuff was pretty good. We got some layups, but some of the decision-making really hurt us. Too many turnovers and just never quite, found the rhythm that we needed.
And DeAnthony, season high, 28 minutes. Just what did you make of his performance tonight?
DeAnthony was great. It's really fun to see him performing at this level after being out for a couple of years. He's such a great guy, such a fantastic teammate, hell of a player, and I'm really happy for him that he's healthy and playing at a high level.
Your reaction to Draymond's hack at DeAndre?
I was worried that, that was the plan. We wanted to foul him. I was worried that they were going to wave off the free throw because he fouled him, during the free throw. I wasn't quite sure, if that's a rule where you can wave away the free throw. But, he jumped on his back and probably just need to wrap him up there instead. But the officials did a good job of handling that and then explaining the situation.
To follow on that, what do you feel like was working for Draymond in the second half after the first half?
The game opened up a little bit. I thought Draymond did a really good job of running the floor. One of the things we're talking to him about right now, especially without Steph, is to really dive out of pick and roll and clear that space at the top. Normally, he and Steph are playing their two-man game up there, and it's really lethal. But without Steph, we've got to get him down the floor. So I thought he really sprinted the floor in transition, got to the corners. Second half, you could see the assists started to pile up because, we did some things off ball to create some openings. He made some really nice plays.
All right, that's Steve Kerr post-game in New Orleans tonight as the Dubs fall. Final score 113-109. I want to talk about what he was bringing up about Draymond right there. I do want to address something that I've seen in the chat. And I'm not going to, I'm talking about the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957 the game if you want to join the conversation. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think the Pelicans are a good basketball team. This is a below-average basketball team at best, and frankly, a pretty darn bad basketball team over the course of the entire season. They have been better of late. I'm just going to sit here and tell you, and I've seen it from multiple people. I was going back and forth a bit during the commercial break. So if you want to join in and you want me to at you on the YouTube chat during a commercial break, join the conversation, youtube.com/957 the game. I see all you guys chiming in. The Pelicans are not tanking, okay? There are a lot of tanking teams in the league. The Pelicans are not tanking. They just aren't very good at basketball. I know that doesn't really make tonight's loss feel better if you're a Warrior fan. The Pelicans, though, are not tanking. You know why teams tank, right? They tank because they want to improve their draft stock. Did you know the Pelicans don't own their first-round pick this year? Their first-round pick is headed to Atlanta for one of the stupidest trades I've ever seen a franchise pull off. They did it last year, and they traded away their first-round pick to this season, the 2026 draft. Unconditional, no protections to Atlanta. Also, they could draft Derek Queen in the first round last year. Derek Queen, a promising young player. Maybe he'll turn out to be good, but my, oh my, an unprotected first-round pick the next season when you knew you were probably going to be bad? One of the worst trades I've ever seen a team make. So are the Pelicans tanking? No. Are the Pelicans generally bad at basketball? Yes, but they're not tanking. If they were tanking, you, one, have to own your first-round pick because that's your incentive to lose. They have no incentive to lose because they don't own their first-round pick. Plus, if they were tanking, they wouldn't be playing Zion, who's injury-prone. They could make up some injury and not play him, and they wouldn't be bringing back DeJounte Murray after almost a year and a half off recovering from an Achilles tear. They are not tanking. I just want to get that out there. Again, I'm not saying they're a good basketball team. I'm just telling you they are not tanking, okay? The Pelicans are not one of the 10 teams tanking in the NBA. They're just bad. They're not tanking. But this bad Pelicans team still beat the Warriors today. Final score 113-109. I just want to get that off my chest. They're not tanking. Like the Kings. The Kings have an interest to tank because they own their first-round pick and they want to own the number 1 overall pick and the number 2 overall pick wherever they end up. So they have their pick of the litter if they want Darren Peterson from Kansas or A.J. DeBonsa from BYU or maybe Cam Boozer from Duke, right? Like, they have a reason to lose. Most people have been calling the Kings the most ethical tank in the league, not because they have to really try hard to lose, just because they're so bad that it happens naturally. Like the Jazz are tanking, and the Jazz have been tanking, and the Jazz have been fined for tanking. There's a difference between what the Jazz are doing and what the Pelicans are doing, and even what the Kings are doing. That's all. The Pelicans are not a good basketball team, but they are not tanking. Yet that team, again, still beat the Warriors 113-109. Okay, let's talk about Draymond Green, and then we'll get to Jonathan Kuminga, and then we'll wrap things up and get out of here tonight on Warriors Wrap-Up. Still time for your calls or your text if you want to weigh in at 888-957-9570. So Steve Kerr there talking about Draymond in the second half. He talked about how the game opened up for him. He talked about how he thought he did a good job running the floor as a result of those two things kind of coalescing. The assist numbers racked up in the second half for Draymond. Draymond in total 6 assists. In the first half, Draymond had just 1 assist. So 5 assists in the second half for Draymond. And the eye test checked out there as well. I thought what happened was the Warriors just planned on attacking the paint in the second half after that did not happen in the first half. And that overall plan, which I don't think has a whole lot to do with Draymond, really hurts Draymond. Because what happens when Draymond is on the floor is Draymond's presence makes it harder for you to be able to exploit inside the paint if you don't have good shooters around him. And what happens, for example, like back in the heyday when it was Steph and Clay and KD, you could have Draymond on the floor and he would be a gigantic positive because you have all these shooters and all this space around him. I think to a certain degree, Draymond's effectiveness is very dependent on the players around him on the court. And I think that's what we've seen over the last maybe couple of months, and specifically the last handful of weeks, the last couple of weeks, just before the All-Star break and since the All-Star break as well. But we were talking about this earlier, kind of to begin the post-game show tonight, how the Pelicans allow the 6th most points per game in the paint this season, yet they're 10th best in terms of limiting opponents making threes. Opponents shoot just 35% from deep against them, the 10th best mark in the NBA, if they give up 53 points per game in the paint, the 6th worst mark in the NBA. When you have Draymond on the floor against a defense that is exploitable inside, as New Orleans is, having Draymond on the floor actually makes that harder to exploit. Because what happens if you're New Orleans is you are so desperately wanting to avoid giving the Warriors just free runs to the rim over and over and over again. When Draymond's on the floor, they don't really need to guard Draymond outside of the paint. So if that's the case, you have DeAndre Jordan or Derek Queen or Matt Kovic, whatever big you want to choose from that's guarding Draymond, that's stuck on Draymond. At times, maybe it was Sadiq Bey or even Zion Williamson, right? Whoever is guarding Draymond. You don't even have to extend outside of the paint, really, other than to avoid a 3-second call or whatever the situation is to defend Draymond. So you can just pack the paint. You want to do that in the first place because you know you struggle in the paint defensively, and Draymond's presence kind of gifts you an extra defender that you can use to limit the Warriors' ability to score in the paint. So when the Warriors were just kind of falling into New Orleans' game plan, which was to encourage them to shoot threes over and over and over again, there's not a lot Draymond can do about that because Draymond's not the most reliable outside shooter. Draymond doesn't want to shoot those threes. Steve Kerr has said he wants him to shoot every open three that he has, which I don't know if I agree with that. That seems to be the wrong decision. I know it's an open three, but I care about who the open three is for. But if that is what you're doing, you're kind of letting New Orleans get away with the way that they're defending. They want you to take those threes, and you are taking those threes. You're not even trying to break them down in the paint, which is what Draymond, as a passer, is best at. And it's how I think he derives the majority of his offensive value. It's by putting the ball in his hands and letting him pass to cutters. That's specifically without Steph. When Steph's on the floor, it is their chemistry, it is their connection that those two have. And it hasn't been as strong this year as in the past. I will admit that as well. But that is part of it when Steph's on the floor. What he can do when Steph's off the floor is almost exclusively just be that passer to cutters or be one of the cutters yourself. And it happened a couple of times. He had a nice reverse layup in the first half, had a couple of layups around the rim in the second half as well. I mean, he finished with 11 points, not a gigantic number. He was 5 for 11 from the field, not terribly inefficient. He had an okay day offensively, specifically in the second half. But then what changed in the second half was the Warriors making a concerted effort to get to the paint over and over and over again. And as Steve Kerr said, the game opened up. And maybe some of it was New Orleans and their defensive principles maybe not working as much in the second half. But I think for the most part, the biggest differentiator in the way the Warriors offense worked first half to second half was just simply their decision to go to the rim, to go to the paint, to break down New Orleans where they are their most vulnerable, which is in the paint. And that's what allows Draymond to be effective offensively. It is. When you are actively going to the paint and you put the ball in Draymond's hands and he finds a cutting Podziemski, he finds a backdoor cutting Guy Santos, he finds D'Anthony Melton, right? Draymond has the ball. The Melton dunk was a great example. Draymond has the ball on the right block and he sees a double team kind of flash his way. DeJounte Murray from the weak side, who's guarding Melton, kind of comes into the paint to help against Draymond on the block. Draymond sees it, makes the skip pass to Melton. DeJounte Murray then has to respect Melton's three-point shot because he made 3 in this game, races out an aggressive closeout. Melton blows past him for the dunk on Matkovic. That's not, again, like a great play by Draymond, but it's an example of Draymond's value. It isn't because he's making a 3. It isn't because he's the one breaking down the defense and scoring a bucket. It's him sensing the advantage, knowing the right pass to make, finding Melton, which led to a Melton bucket. Now, Melton, the dunk of the game, the highlight of the game. I'm not going to tell you that was, all because of Draymond, but there's a lot of Warriors players, if they have the ball in the same spot on the floor, don't make that pass that Draymond did. That's where Draymond's value is maximized right now, when you can put him in those spots. And I think the Warriors actively did a terrible job at not putting him in those spots in the first half. They did in the second half, and I don't think it's any coincidence that he played so much better in the second half because of, in general, the way they planned their attack. Because New Orleans is bad defensively in the paint, and that kind of offensive style for the Warriors, specifically when there's no Steph on the floor with Draymond, is what makes Draymond be more effective as well. And I put this out online on Twitter during the game. I said I think Draymond's having a hell of a second half, and largely he's been pretty good in this game. And I got a number of Warrior fans like, what are you watching? How could you possibly think that? It's not about points for Draymond. Draymond had the ball in his hands a lot in this game, committed 1 turnover, had 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. In a game in which they lost by 4, he was a +8. The +8, third best on the Warriors team today. Moses Moody +13, Melton +9, Draymond +8. For me, the eye test matches up with the plus-minus today. Those were the Warriors' 3 best players. I don't think it was that close. It was Melton, it was Moody, and it was Draymond, the Warriors' 3 best players today. And the plus-minus suggests that as well. Now, has Draymond been the perfect player this season? No, far from it. Was he good versus the Celtics right out of the All-Star break? No, he was not. Did the Warriors' offense look more dynamic and quicker and faster without Draymond on Sunday versus the Nuggets? Yes, it did. Absolutely it did. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I'm just telling you tonight, in this basketball game, Draymond was at his best when the Warriors kind of planned their attack, not around his strengths, but around what the Pelicans do poorly, and also what Draymond is the best at. And there's no coincidence that Draymond had a good half when that was the case. He had a bad half when it wasn't the case, because he can't have an impact on that kind of game where all you're doing is shooting threes, because he's not going to make those threes at a high rate very often, and defenders aren't going to respect him out there, so it makes it harder for him to get into the paint and be where he can be effective. So I think the Warriors, their plan, Steve Kerr's plan offensively, Terry Stotts' plan offensively really hindered, I think, Draymond's ability to have an impact on the game in the first half. That's how I saw this one. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. Again, that's 888-957-9570. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey sports station, always live on the free Odyssey app, and now broadcasting from the Laughing Monk studios. We got to get to Jonathan Kuminga. We will do that here in just a sec. I think we have a phone call coming in right now that I want to get to before we transition to Jonathan Kuminga. We're going to go to that phone call here in just a sec once we get it all set in the back. But the Warriors lose this game 113-109. They got a back-to-back coming up tomorrow, which is going to be interesting. Where I would imagine no D'Anthony Melton. Melton played, by the way, 28 minutes tonight, which I think is a season high. Let me check that for you. He's really been maxing out at 25. And yes, I can confirm this is a new season high in minutes for D'Anthony Melton. Steve Kerr hinted pregame that there is a chance that Melton's minutes restriction could go by the wayside relatively soon, which would be a major boost for the Warriors. I would think, this is my guess, that D'Anthony Melton's going to remain starting when Steph Curry comes back. I think it's going to be Steph Curry, D'Anthony Melton, as long as Moody keeps playing like he's playing, Moses Moody, and then Draymond Green. And, I don't know if you're going to start Al Horford. He has been starting of late before Porzingis made his Warrior debut, and still, of course, Porzingis has only played in one game and came off the bench in that game. But that is a hell of a five, honestly, in my opinion. It's not bad. Steph Curry, D'Anthony Melton, Moses Moody, Draymond Green, and Al Horford. That's a pretty good five. Just imagine what it would be like if it was Jimmy Butler instead of Moses Moody and you had Moses as your sixth man off the bench. That would feel pretty good as well. But that's not a bad five if the Warriors can get them all fully healthy. We shall see how it all plays out. Point is, though, Melton having a hell of a season and a hell of a stretch right now, and maybe his minutes restriction will go by the wayside entirely coming up pretty soon. I don't know if that means he'll play in back-to-backs. I expect him to not play tomorrow. Horford will play tomorrow. We'll see on Draymond Green, who, again, did not play on Sunday but played tonight. Ended up playing 31 and a half minutes in this game tonight. We'll see the status on all those guys tomorrow. Warriors traveling to Memphis tonight, and that game tips off tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific time, which means Warriors Live begins at 3:30 here on 95.7 The Game. Okay, we'll talk more about that, but first, some scores from around the league, and specifically first, just one score from around the league. Atlanta Hawks hosting the Washington Wizards, and I do not have this game circled because Trae Young, who was traded from the Hawks to the Wizards in January, made his return to Atlanta for the first time, although he did not play, not going to play the rest of the season for the Wizards. But he was on the bench for Washington tonight in Atlanta. They gave him a tribute video at halftime. That's not why this game, though, is piquing the interest of Warrior fans. It's because a certain player for the Hawks that came off the bench made his Hawks debut, and that certain player is, of course, Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I was not able to watch the majority of this game. I watched the full first quarter because this game started a half hour before the Warriors game, and I watched about like a 6 or 7 minute run of Jonathan Kuminga basketball, and in that first quarter, his first stint, oh man, he looked good. And I'm going to have to go back and fire up the League Pass and watch the rest of this game because Kuminga was absolutely amazing in this game for the Hawks tonight. He finishes with 27 points, which was a season high, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, was 9 of 12 from the field, 3 of 4 from downtown, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, and played just 24 minutes off the bench. How about this? And I saw this courtesy of our friend, the station, Mark Spears. No Hawk had ever finished a debut with the team with 25 or more points in fewer than 30 minutes played until Jonathan Kuminga tonight. Jonathan Kuminga, 27 points, 9 of 12 from the field, 3 of 4 from downtown in just 24 minutes off the bench. In that first quarter that I was able to watch live, I haven't seen quarters 2 through 4 where he did a lot of his damage, but in the first quarter, he had a couple of fast break buckets. One was a fast break dunk. He had a couple of really nice passes. I saw him sky for a couple of boards, hit a three-pointer as well. I think 7 points in his first stint. And then that continued for the rest of the game, and he looked happy. The smile on his face after his fast break dunk, which forced a Washington timeout. I hadn't seen him that happy in a really long time. I imagine he's feeling great just because he gets to start new. And look, we're not going to sit here and say that the first game of Kuminga's post-Warriors career determines that he's going to be a superstar and the Warriors absolutely bungled everything. That could still absolutely be true, but one game does not prove much of anything. Now, it was amazing, and it's an amazing start for Kuminga, and I'm absolutely happy for the kid. What I will say is I think so much of what hindered Kuminga here, and Steve Kerr talked about it, and it was the fit and how maybe his play style wasn't great in terms of meshing with what the Warriors needed from him, and the role wasn't quite what he wanted. You get to a certain point, and we've probably all experienced things like this in our day-to-day lives, in our work, in our professions, even if it's not, an athlete, an athletic endeavor, if it's something of an office job. Like you can relate, I think, to Jonathan Kuminga. Just say you're in an office job and you think you're capable of doing so much more, yet your boss, you get passed over for promotions time and time and time again, and then maybe out of pity, you finally get given an opportunity, but you're still kind of pissed and PO'd the way that it's played out for your first 3 or 4 years here, that you're unwilling to maybe give everything that you got in that moment. When in a moment of need, the company looks to you and they say, hey, we really need you today. Can you help us out? And you say, well, I've been ready for the last 3 years and you haven't turned to me. So no, I'm not going to do that for you right now. And then you leave that job and you start somewhere else. And oh boy, suddenly you're loose again. You're enjoying life again. You're having a good time. It is so much easier for a player, in my opinion, to go somewhere else that didn't draft you as a top 10 pick, where you haven't felt done in by multiple occasions, by many decision makers. It's so much easier for you to, when you take the floor and when you play, to not feel like you have to prove something in order for you to earn your next group of minutes, right? When he was on the Warriors, it felt like every possession was a referendum on who he was. It was, if I score a bucket on this possession, I'm going to change the odds, and suddenly I'm going to be winning. Oh, Kuminga's great. He deserves more minutes. Oh, we turn it over. Now it's flipping the other way, right? Like every possession was a referendum on who Kuminga was, and that is a terrible way to live. Terrible way to live. So I absolutely felt for the kid in the situation that he was put into. Now you start anew in Atlanta, and you don't have those pressures. He can check into the game. He can do his thing. He can play loose. Doesn't have to worry about, if I score here, I'm going to earn more minutes. If I turn it over here, oh my God, am I going to see the floor again? Like, that is out of his mind. So it is so much easier. I can imagine just the mental load of having that gone. It makes it so much easier for you. Like, I was watching Kuminga in the first quarter, and I swear to you, there are so many moments in that first quarter, and I only watched like 6 or 7 minutes of him play basketball today. I'm going to go watch the rest of the game tonight once I get off the air here. But I swear to you, there were so many moments in that first quarter where he had the ball, and it was early in the shot clock, and he had the ball relatively open, a left wing three if he wanted, and he didn't take it. He did not take it. And he passed the ball to Reese or whoever it was on the floor for the Hawks, whoever his teammate was. Maybe it was Jalen Johnson, right? It doesn't really matter who it was. He passed up an open left wing three. I feel like he would have taken that left wing three if he was on the Warriors, because he feels like that pressure to prove, I'm a player that can help you. But he doesn't feel that with Atlanta, because it's a new place. No one knows who he is. He doesn't feel like he has to score in order to earn minutes going forward. He's just playing so much looser and freer and easier. You can tell he's having fun. And just from an individual perspective, I love that for Jonathan Kuminga. Man, it was so refreshing to see him just on the floor, seemingly having fun again. And so I'm really happy for Kuminga. I hope he has a lot of success in Atlanta and wherever his career takes him. I'm sure he's feeling really, really good tonight. But yeah, I think it was pretty clear just the mental load, I think, that has been lifted off of Kuminga. Because that's not an easy thing to do, the situation that he was in here. And some of it obviously is his fault. I'm not saying he's free from blame here. A big chunk of it is his fault. He wasn't able to play the way the team wanted him to play. Now, did Steve Kerr handle it perfectly either? Did the Warriors coaching staff, did the front office handle it perfectly? No, absolutely not. No one escapes blame in this situation, and we don't need to dive into that again. We've been talking about that for years now. But he doesn't have any of that currently in Atlanta. Maybe that develops a year from now, 2 years from now, who the hell knows? But as of this moment, that's all gone. And man, he played free in this game. And it was good to see, honestly, because I know personally, not through conversations with Kuminga, but through conversations with people very close to Kuminga, not to say like he hated his life, but it was really, really difficult for him. This experience, specifically maybe the last couple of seasons, really, really difficult for him. So I'm just happy personally for the guy that he, at least in his debut, it felt like he was free from that sort of stuff. So congratulations to Kuminga. What a performance. I mean, his motivation is to help himself and to get another contract and to prove that he can be a winning player on a good team in this league. But I would imagine there's also some motivation for him to say, you know what, I'm going to stick it to the Warriors and I'm going to prove that they mess this thing up. And if he has more games like that, then they are absolutely going to be able to look at that and say, wow, we might have messed this thing up. Today was a great step in that direction if you are. Nice performance by Jonathan Kuminga. Again, 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, a couple of steals, 9 of 12 from the field, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 3 of 4 from downtown, and played just 24 minutes off the bench. What a game from Jonathan Kuminga. All right. Kuminga and the Hawks win. The Warriors lose to the Pelicans today. Again, the final score, 113-109. Really quick look at some of the other games from around the Western Conference. The Warriors, again, currently in the 8th spot, as they've been basically the entire season. Right above them, the Suns. Right below them, the Blazers. I know the Suns, I think they might be in action right now. I know they were playing earlier today. Let me check this for you. In fact, that game went final. The Celtics beat the Suns, which is good news for the Warriors. Celtics 97, Suns 81. Let's see what else around the Western Conference today. Important games for the Warriors. Not a whole lot. The Pelicans have obviously beat the Warriors. The Blazers are locked into a battle with the Timberwolves on Peacock right now. A 1-point T-Wolves lead in the fourth quarter. Warriors fans should be rooting for the T-Wolves to close that one out. T-Wolves 103, Blazers 102 currently in the fourth. And then the only other game going on right now that maybe is of somewhat interest to the Warriors, the Magic and the Lakers. Lakers have a 5-point lead over the Magic with 6.5 to go in the third quarter. That one not really impacting the Warriors all that much. The Warriors are a full 5 games behind the Lakers. It feels pretty difficult for the Warriors to catch the Lakers. The Warriors are also 5 games behind the T-Wolves, which is why you should be rooting for the T-Wolves to beat the Blazers, keep the Warriors ahead of the Blazers, who are right behind the Warriors in 9th. Right now, Warriors 2 games up. If the Blazers were to lose, that would be a 2.5 game lead. If the Blazers were to beat the T-Wolves, it would be a 1.5 game lead, and that is for the 8 seed. If you are the 8 seed, you get 2 chances at the play-in in order to make a postseason series. If you're the 9, which is what the Warriors would be if Portland catches them, if you are the 9, you would have to win at home versus the 10 seed, likely the Clippers. And then you'd have to also then beat the winner of the 7-8 games. So you have to win 2 games in a row instead of having just to win 1 in 2 chances if you are the 8 seed. So that's pretty valuable. Warrior fans should be rooting for the T-Wolves to beat the Blazers here tonight. And then coming up tomorrow for the Warriors, they travel to Memphis tonight, in Memphis tomorrow at 4:30, which means our pregame coverage begins at 3:30 here on 95.7 The Game. And, of course, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about the Warriors game tonight and Jonathan Kuminga's performance tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game all day long until, again, we officially kick off our coverage of that game at 3:30 tomorrow. All right. That's going to do it for Warriors Wrap-Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mark Grandy, signing off. Thanks to Cam Williams behind the glass, and thanks to all of you guys for tuning in tonight. I will be back with you tomorrow for Dubs and Grizzlies from Memphis. Until then, this is Mark Grandy signing off. Have a great night. We'll talk tomorrow on 95.7 The Game.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We asked parents to share their journey of adopting teens.
They changed who I am because I can't see life without them in it.
Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
In 1848, James Marshall